Hello, all. Hey, guys, I'm just trying to put stuff together before I jump on air. Hey, everybody, just bear with me. That was fast. All right, so Salty Rants. Hey, everybody. Okay. Equipment's ready. Wow. Y'all didn't waste any time. Thanks, everybody, for showing up. Hold on. God, I need to get better pictures of myself on here. How do y'all deal with me? I look fucking horrible. Okay. This one is going to be a completely rant-filled episode, folks. So just so bear with me, okay? As you can see, representing Bullet Club. Just got this hat, prowrestlingtees.com, as well as my James Ellsworth t-shirt, which I will be talking about today, addressing James Ellsworth on today's show. So make sure everything's good before I start officially. All right. And 3, 2, 1. Last mark standing with your host, Damian SAWLTY G. Sans the Marquis Mark. There is no Trina this week. She is off in parts unknown. For those that don't know, she is currently in South Carolina, awaiting the nuptials of herself this weekend, which I will gladly and graciously be a part of. So, big shout out to Trina. I'm rooting for you on your wedding day. I'm very honored that you've included me to be invited to said wedding, so I'm looking forward to that. So, a lot happened this week, fellas and ladies. I don't even know where to begin, but you know what? I know where I'm going to begin. James Ellsworth. Yeah, exactly. The dude's whose shirt I'm wearing right now. That guy resonates with me more than I would like to admit. You know, I've been debating pretty much the last week and a half since he was getting so much pub on SmackDown. Why is it that we relate so well, or the fan base loves James Ellsworth? I've been trying to rack my brain around it, and I figured it out today, actually. He's us. He is the person that 9 times out of 10 wouldn't be picked to be in an athletic endeavor. He'd be the last kid picked for dodgeball. Like, he typifies that guy. Full disclosure, your boy Damian SAWLTY G was the last kid picked for dodgeball or any type of sports because I am clumsy. I've said it before on the show. I am rather clumsy. So I relate to someone like James Ellsworth. He doesn't fit the part. He doesn't look the part. But for some odd reason, and maybe it's because in his interviews with Jericho, with Stone Cold, he just comes across exactly as an underdog, as a lovable loser. And Cubs fans could relate to this, where you can relate to someone who's destined to lose on paper, but is a hit when it comes for off of quote-unquote paper. Now, if we saw the last 2 matches with James Ellsworth against AJ Styles, it wasn't pretty. It was pretty formulaic. where he was playing the inevitable out of your league jobber a la Barry Horowitz and Iron Mike Sharp back in the day. But there's something about him. Maybe it's because he doesn't have a chin. Maybe because he just looks like, a typical dad bod type, where I believe it was Otunga who made the mention that his stomach is bigger than his chest. You know what? I don't care. The story is enthralling. To see him back-to-back weeks on SmackDown, and let's not face facts, the dude got a pop. He got himself over just by being who he is. With the exception of CM Punk, who was the last person that got themselves over just by being exactly who they were? Not a caricature, not a version of themselves, a legitimate version of themselves, and got themselves over with the national audience. Because y'all know this by now. Everyone who's watched the show, who's listened to the show on lastmarkstanding.com, I'm taking Raw off. I am done with Raw. There's no reason for me to watch Raw. I got more important things to do in my life than sit 3 hours on a Monday trudging over who's having a bigger dick measuring contest between Stephanie McMahon and Mick Foley. The only reasonable things I care about when it comes to Raw is the women's division, KO and Jericho. I used to care about Enzo and Big Cass. I don't care anymore. Even though they're one of my favorite tag teams, they're not enough to get me to tune in to Monday Night Raw. And yes, I do believe that Ellsworth should reform the Job Squad. We should bring in Gilbert. We should bring in the Blue Meanie, Two Core Scorpio, Al Snow. Bring in everyone else who was like a jobber. Barry Horowitz, like I said. Bring them all in. Have one big old jobber stable. I know they tried that with 3MB or insert random stable here that sucks. But there's just something good about people like James Ellsworth. Because think about it. He was the one that started the Braun Strowman jobber parade. But everyone after that, do you really remember them except for the one dude that likes big sweaty men and the fake luchador? Do you really remember any of them? Because I don't. And if you do, you can tweet the show at Lastmark Podcast. Tweet me at Dare to Be Damian. Let me know why you yourself as a fan appreciate somebody like James Ellsworth. He's the everyman. I've said it before. I'll say it again. He is the everyman that represents what we, or me specifically, can't be. I've said on the show a million times. I have cerebral palsy. I'm clumsy. I'm not athletic whatsoever. The fact that I was able to reform myself from a 300-pound guy to what I am right now says a lot. But James Ellsworth, he's living the dream, man. And I'm happy about that. I'm happy to see that someone who dedicated 14 years in this business, in this industry, is able to make some sort of living on the grand stage, is selling merch like the shirt I'm wearing right now, and he's selling a t-shirt with his face on it, which admittedly isn't a very attractive face, but still, he's entrancing. He's enthralling. He makes me want to tune in. If he was on Monday Night Raw, I guarantee you I'd tune in to Monday Night Raw if it was James Ellsworth. Even if he hosted a show, like the highlight reel, we'll call it like the Ellsworth Hour or the Ellsworth Corner, something like that, where he can just be himself. And I guarantee you ratings would go up at least a little bit. But I feel like SmackDown is the best place for somebody like James Ellsworth because he fits the dynamic. It's 2 hours. SmackDown is a quick, brisk 2 hours. You don't have to trudge through tons of filler, and he's fun. Now, I know a lot of people and friends of the show and friends of mine have said that they have a problem with the fact that he's gotten over on AJ twice. Who else would you trust to put over someone like James Ellsworth in a way without losing credibility? And don't give me the whole, well, if AJ wasn't from TNA or if AJ wasn't from New Japan, he wouldn't be the one putting over Ellsworth. I don't buy that. A lot of people have texted me that, have tweeted me that. I don't buy that. I feel that because AJ Styles is almost bulletproof, pun unintended, he's the only one that Ellsworth could quote unquote beat. And then we're just like, okay, he doesn't lose any luster. And I know some people saying this, the Splash Brothers, but really the one that started it all was James Ellsworth. I am proud to say this. I am a James Ellsworth fan. I am rooting for the guy. I hope he gets a contract, and even if he doesn't, he will make a killing and a living on the independent circuit, on the autograph circuit. I guarantee you, he shows up to, let's say, House of Glory, any of these little independent, insane championship wrestling, he will be a main attraction, and I gladly will show up because I appreciate someone who busts their ass for 14 years to finally get their moment in the sun. And you know what? It didn't demean the title. He didn't beat AJ. It's okay. He didn't pin him for the belt. This isn't a David Arquette situation, so we don't really got to worry about that. Let's just enjoy the ride. Let's have fun with the fact that, wrestling's supposed to be fun. So while we're having fun on Raw with Jericho and the list and stupid idiots and calling whatever, what's his face? I forget his name. Sorry. Tom Phillips, calling him Felipe, calling him Orlando, whatever name they want to call him. That's fun on Raw. But Ellsworth, good stuff. Because remember, after the whole incident with Braun Strowman, he got his ass kicked by The Miz. And you know what? That got him even more over because it made people hate The Miz more. People hate AJ Styles more because he's beating up the lovable loser. And yes, as Dean Ambrose said this week on SmackDown, he's got 2 wins over AJ Styles, which is more than what John Cena has. So that's got to dig at least a little bit in John Cena's craw. Because if it was me, I'd be a little bit annoyed. But for the sake of the business, it's best for business. So let me know, guys. Do you want to see more of James Ellsworth? Tweet me at DareToBeDamian. We're on the Twitter timeline. We're on the YouTube channel timeline. Coming on the chat, people are chiming in. But let me know. More Ellsworth, less Ellsworth, just enough Ellsworth. Another rant I have, and I owe all the credit to Bear Hug It Out, the podcast, Bear Hug It Out. I love those guys. They are friends of the show. I am personal friends with them. I love them. And they brought up a very interesting point this past week. Going to talk about, go back and listen to it. They referenced something that I didn't really give a lot of thought to, but it hit me as the show kept going on because I found myself, and we've all been there, where we're listening to a show, we're listening to something, and we're just nodding along, and we're agreeing with what we're watching or listening to. A point that, and I want to frame this perfectly for those who may be offended by what I'm about to say, so forgive me. I don't like to get controversial on the Last Mark Standing, but I'm going to anyway. Would Sasha Banks be getting the push from management if she was Naomi's skin tone? Because Naomi's been with WWE for a lot longer than Sasha. She worked her way up in FCW, a la AJ Lee, a la Seth Rollins, Dean Ambrose, Roman Reigns when he was Leake. So she's been in the trudges of FCW. But would she have the support of management if she was Naomi skin tone? And this goes back to many a podcast and many a broadcast where people say, when was the last time WWE pushed an African-American superstar? Not a multicultural superstar, not a multi-ethnic superstar. So don't give me The Rock, don't give me Roman Reigns, because that is multi-ethnic. I'm talking about an African-American, pure African-American, a la Ron Simmons in WCW superstar. Don't worry, I'll wait. I'll wait for people to let me know when was the last person that was pushed. But I know in the back of my mind somebody's gonna say Bobby Lashley. Because yes, he had the look, but he didn't have the charisma. I feel Bobby Lashley's a lot better now than when he was in WWE. So I know some people are going to say that, but think about this. Sasha Banks, Bayley. Everyone wants to talk about the 4 horsewomen. People forget Bayley's Hispanic or Latina. Sasha is part German. So she's not full-fledged African-American. Naomi's been around longer. Naomi's more athletic than Sasha. She's more athletic pretty much than anybody on the women's roster. If you want to give me Charlotte with her beautiful moonsault, I'll give you that. But pound for pound, athleticism, Naomi's got that package. She's attractive. She's athletic. She's prone to botches, so I could see that's why management or why a point of management would not want her to be pushed. But with her current gimmick of being either a raver or a dance machine, but something fun and interesting. And remember, wrestling is supposed to be entertaining. So on one hand, we're entertained by the boss persona, right? Or the queen. But think about it. Just really think about it. If Sasha was Naomi's skin tone, would she be getting the push she's getting? Now, friend of the show, Ben Shaw, tweeted at me earlier and said, well, maybe it's the connection to Snoop Dogg. That's not a bad idea, because that opens up a door to a totally different fan base, because Snoop Dogg is a friend of the WWE. So if she wasn't related to Snoop Dogg, that's another thing. Would she be as pushed? I love Sasha, but I've said it before. She has regressed since coming up from NXT. You can debate me all you want, but that's how I feel. She's regressed since she came from NXT. Same with Becky. I feel like they're not allowed to cut loose. So because of that, their matches are formulaic. Becky with her straight fire, it bothers me. Sasha, the double knees. All I see right now are knees. Sasha's double knees, the backstabber, the bank statement, a high spot where she gets injured, the tope suicida. Think about that. Just chew on that for a minute and just think about that. Yes. And you know what? I just caught that. Yes. Miss Jacqueline was the last women's champion. So thank you for whoever tweeted that to me. I appreciate that. She was a really rumble tough woman. I loved her in the ring. I appreciate Jack. I wanted her to get pushed more because I'm a fan of women who can go in the ring. We all know this. I'm actually a fan of women's wrestling. But in the current landscape, now I want someone to actually write this on Twitter or on YouTube. How long was Jacqueline's reign or longest reign with the women's championship? So if someone can find that for me, let me know. Again, tweet the show at Last Spark Podcast, me at Dare to Be Damian. I'm actually curious. Yes, Sasha is injury prone. So Vince has gone on record and said he's hesitant to go all in with the Sasha push. But she's a marketable face. She's an attractive, eclectic, good worker, not a great worker, but she's a personality. Why can't Naomi be that personality? What's separating those two? If you're going to give me mic skills, they're both average on the mic. When Sasha's a face, she's not good on the mic. So if they turned her heel, and they did when she came up with Team Bad, which I thought was the most cookie cutter heel stable I could ever. And don't get me wrong, I was there for I was there for the Los Boricuas, the DOA, the Nation of Domination, the quote unquote gang wars. So the WWE, when they tried this Divas Revolution back about a year and change ago, they split the women up into 3 teams: the angry black women, the eclectic white women, right? And then the mean girls with Team Bella. Really, WWE writers, you couldn't get anything better? That's what you gave the women to work with? And I know friend of the show, Smart Infested Waters, is going to text me at some point or message me at some point and saying I'm right, because they don't give women a lot to work with. But just, again, think about that. I want everyone to just have that in the back of their mind when they watch Hell in a Cell and they appreciate the athleticism that the women are putting themselves through, that Charlotte and Sasha are going through, that Becky's dominating with Alexa Bliss, with Naomi, with Nikki, with Carmella, and so on and so forth. And that's another point where I'll get to regarding SmackDown. Just have that in the back of your mind. Why can't other women get pushed over Sasha, over Charlotte? Is it because they're the best of the bunch? Or is there something more at play? I want you guys to let me know. Yes, the Mexicools was another bad gimmick. I just got that on the YouTube feed. As a Latino American, the Mexicools gimmick was horrible. They were driving the Juan Deres, not John Deere, Juan Deres, down to the ring, these lawnmowers. Really? And if you don't know what I'm talking about, I want you to take a step back and go listen to our old episodes, especially last week's when we were talking about Patrick Clark, or 2 weeks ago when we were talking about Patrick Clark, how WWE or wrestling as a whole, because Mass Fan has educated me today on Mid-South, how there's always that one non-white superstar, that gets chosen to represent the federation or the organization, but they don't really have management's full backing. Cool with the Juan Deres, the Latino World Order, even the Nation of Domination. And I'm reading right now, so thank you very much. Jacqueline had 2 women's title reigns, one exactly 2 months. The other clocks in at 1 day. So Sasha is a 2-time Raw Women's Champion, right? She lasted 1 pay-per-view, and this will be another pay-per-view, so what, technically 2 months? So she's pretty much clocking Jacqueline time if we're going back to history. I'm not a fan of that. Well, first off, I'm not a fan of hot-shotting titles. Never been a fan of that. Like, you get it 1 week, you get another. I'm not a big proponent of just hot-shotting titles. And for those who are curious, yeah, you can listen on YouTube, SoundCloud.com, iTunes.com, but live on YouTube right now. So feel free to tune in. I will tweet the address for those that don't know. If not, please share. Please retweet for those who want to join in the conversation. Another thing I'm a little irked about, and again, this is me just venting. This is Damian After Hours. This is Salty Damian G, just being real salty about stuff because I have been going to indie events a lot over the past 2 months, and I owe that to Trina. So thank you, Trina, for that, for putting me on to indie events. Thank you for Rick Castle, Rhino Rick, for being the mouthpiece for me to attend these events. I really appreciate it. But indie events, I was at Fiesta Pro Wrestling. That event, 30 people in the stands were wrestlers for the organization. Now, I'm not a aficionado of indie wrestling, and my friend Chuck Colorado, he can chime in if he wants to. Trina let me know that that's par for the course when it comes to indie wrestling. I personally enjoy those intimate settings, those quote-unquote bingo hall situations where you have 100 people, 50 people, 80 people. I don't care who's with me. I go to watch the in-ring action. But there is a line between going to an indie federation and making yourself the show, and stop me if you heard this before, versus people who want to be the show. I saw it at House of Glory. I saw a little bit at Fiesta Pro Wrestling where people were trying to get under the wrestler's skin to the point where they wanted themselves to be the show. Now, don't get me wrong. Myself and Rhino Rick, we were trying to get over one specific thing, which is uno, dos, tres, when the referee counts 3. When you get to 2, we scream out dos, so we can break kayfabe in a sense and get the referee to actually break context, or even the people in ring, to the point where we actually got the wrestlers in the crowd screaming dos with me, or even when they were doing countouts, we were like uno, dos, tres. So that's fun, but we know where the line is. We don't want to make it about us. Me personally, I am so sick and tired of you freaking fans who go to these events. And again, I'm going to say this ad nauseum. I'm sorry. If you're going to tune out, that's fine. You douchebag fans who ruin it for everybody else because you think it's the cool place to be. Whereas yours truly wants to be there. I went to go see 2 of my favorite wrestlers, TJ Marconi and Mandy Leon. I have also become a fan of Deonna Purrazzo because I went to that show. Every women's match that happened at Fiesta Pro Wrestling, I am a fan of. So big shout out to them for treating us to a really good show, even though there was about 36 some odd people. They had shitty microphones and things of that nature, but it was worth it. I don't mind paying the money to go to a show like that. It makes me wonder, why the fudge am I spending so much money to go to WWE events when I can get better bang for my buck while going to an indie show? I want people to share their indie show stuff with me, like their memories or things they like about indie shows. Again, tweet the show at Last Mark Podcast, at your boy Damian SAWLTY G, at Dare to be Damian. Let me know what you think about indies versus WWE. Like, where's the disconnect? Is it about the casual fan? Is it about more just who they're marketing to? Because I'm a former marketing major. I understand you want to market to advertisers. But at what point do you go from sports entertainment to wrestling and back and forth? It's confusing and rather annoying. And yes, sorry. Okay. Sorry, Mass fan. My bad. All right. He just chimed in and told me that my sound's cutting out the louder I get. So I'm going to take it down a notch for you guys listening over there. Let me go back to YouTube and see what people are saying. Okay, in terms of Naomi, the eye injury killed the momentum she had. Not for nothing, she actually had a badass eye patch. I kind of like that. I think it actually set up her gimmick a lot better. It made her look a little bit more badass because she had the eye patch. So I didn't think that was a bad thing, but I get what you're saying. Visually, it's like, why do I want to get behind somebody that's got an eye patch? What's the gimmick here? Captain Ahab? So I get it. Chavo and Eddie. Okay, Chavo and Eddie being Mexican or Mexican gangsters, sorry. You know what? Los Guerreros were one of my favorite tag teams because their gimmick was so over the top that they were a parody of that, I want to say, that stereotypical gimmick. When you parody something that's a gimmick already, I think that's somewhat excusable. But then again, it's all on the performer. When you had Super Crazy, Psicosis, and Juventud Guerrera coming down on those Juanderes, did they really believe in the gimmick they were doing? No. Because think about when you go back to Los Guerreros, they came down the lowrider. Eddie started using that when he went solo as part of his gimmick, as part of his entrance. So he took what he was given and bumped it up to the 15th power. So that's a bit of a parody. That's why I love Sasha in NXT, because if you follow it early when she started that gimmick of being the boss, there were chants at Full Sail, and we give Full Sail a lot of crap for being a shitty crowd. But they would say, Sasha's ratchet. No, she's not. Sasha's ratchet. No, she's not. But that got her over. The boss gimmick got her over because it started being less about being quote unquote ratchet. It started more about being, I'm coming in here, I'm going to dominate, I'm going to take over. Well, Naomi had the same thing with Team Bad. Could it be because she was put with Sasha that it was an automatic death sentence? I personally think so. But I honestly believe if SmackDown Live really wants to make waves, and maybe they're doing that now by making Naomi and Alexa Bliss trade wins, they're going to have like this triple threat match in Glasgow where it's going to have Naomi versus Alexa versus Becky. And it's going to make Alexa even more pissed off because, let's face it, she's a pissed off heel, and that's what she does best. It's going to make for a better match. Even though I do want to see Alexa and Becky, I would love to see a wild card thrown into the match. That's just me. And then the other feud on SmackDown Live, you got Nikki versus Carmella. Part of me wants to hate it because the acting's horrible. Part of me wants to love it because, let's face facts, what Carmella said this past week on SmackDown was something a lot of people thought originally. Because when the Bellas debuted, Brie was first. Correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't Brie first? So, and then they did Twin Magic, and then they brought Nicole on because I don't remember it. I don't know it verbatim, but wasn't the only reason Nicole went was because Brie asked her to go to the audition for the Diva Search? Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't know if I don't fully know, but I believe that's it. So Carmella's right. You didn't get into wrestling if it wasn't for your sister getting you into the door. Nikki didn't take her career seriously until she started dating Cena because she started weight training, lifting weights, getting more power-based moves. Maybe that was Cena's influence. Maybe it wasn't. But the fact that Carmella is bringing this to the surface, I got no problem with it. I'm sorry. I know people are going to disagree with me on that, and that's okay because that's what makes us go around. But she says what a lot of people thought. I'm not a Nikki Bella fan. I'm just not. I applaud her for busting her ass to get back into the ring. I appreciate that. When a wrestler, forget woman, man, whatever, midget, doesn't matter. When they bust their ass, like I said with Ellsworth, to get back to doing what they love, I have nothing but the utmost respect for somebody like that. But the feud itself, it's got to end with Carmella going over, right? It can't end with Nikki going over because Nikki's already a commodity. She's going to get pops no matter what she does, because I can see her feuding with Natalya after this. And I can see after Naomi's done with this whole trifecta thing, moving on to Carmella. I think that will work. But Nikki doesn't lose anything by jobbing to Carmella. Carmella loses a lot from losing this feud with Nikki. In fact, all this really does is show me that Carmella should have stayed in NXT. But again, that's just me venting and just pretty much giving my 2 cents. Checking back in with YouTube. WWE sells entertainment, not wrestling. Indie sells wrestling first. Exactly. Mass fan, I completely agree. I believe Batman said it best. WWE is a soap opera that pretends to be a wrestling show, where other shows are wrestling shows that try to be television shows. I will gladly spend my money to go to an indie event. I love it. I love the passion. These are people who are like me, as a broadcaster, trying to get my bearings in the broadcast industry, who are working their way up. And a lot of people probably think I would sell out or something like that if and when I got signed to a major market or a major broadcasting network. But this is the fun part. The fact that I get to do this and get paid minimally is fun for me. Like, I'm not even stressing about it. So that's why I can have a connection with indie wrestling. It's sort of like when your favorite band or your favorite musician, they start out as an underground artist, and then all of a sudden they get big. You're like, oh, yeah. Love for them. That's how I feel lately with WWE. SmackDown, I like. Raw, again, on hiatus. I have no reason to watch Raw. I'll watch Hell in a Cell for the ladies, for KO, because, you know, if anyone saw me at Comic-Con, I dressed up as KO for Comic-Con. Other than that, I have no reason to watch Monday Night Raw. I'll watch it on Hulu. I'll even watch it hours later where it's like an hour and 10 minutes. That's just me, again. That's just me venting. Lucha does both pretty well. I've never seen Lucha Underground. I need people to do me this favor. No. A lot of people have asked me to watch Lucha Underground. Tweet me the best 3 matches I should watch for Lucha Underground. Again, that's at Dare to Be Damian on Twitter at Last Mark Podcast. Let me know the best 3 matches in your opinion. If you want to DM me, that's fine, so I can catch up on Lucha Underground. I mean, I know Prince Puma because he's Ricochet. I get that. I know Ray's there now. I saw him at Comic-Con publicizing Lucha Underground, but I've never seen it. I hear Matt Striker's pretty good on commentary. That too. But I definitely want to check that out. Let's see what else we got. Yes, I know I will start. I promise. If people tweet me and let me know what matches to watch, I will start watching Lucha Underground. There's only so much time in a day, guys. I mean, I got a full-time job. I know you don't want to hear this, but I got a full-time job. I have a life. It's hard to actually watch wrestling. That's another reason why I can't watch Raw. There's so many things going on. You know, I just have life. All right, so forgive me. And again, speaking of forgiveness, let me switch gears really quick. I tweeted this morning. I like the team of Rich Swann and No Way Jose. And yes, I know they're caricatures of stereotypes, of cultural stereotypes. I've had Dominican guys tell me that No Way Jose is a poor representation of Dominican culture. Like, the dances he even does aren't from Dominican culture. It's just him gyrating his hips and moving to the beat. It's sort of like Adam Rose, but he happens to be Latino. So I like it. It's infectious. It's entertaining. It's fun. And the fact that Swan can go in the ring, and the fact that Jose is improving, and I was there at NXT Brooklyn. I saw his match against Austin Aries live, and Trina can back me up on this, as well as Andrew Zarian from Mat Men. He really showed me a lot during his match with Austin Aries. I thought he was going to get outclassed. He showed me a lot, and this goes back to something that Mass Fan told me earlier about Ty Dillinger. With someone who makes you step up your game, I think that's the only way you learn. Like, prime example, the more I do these broadcasts with people who make me step up my game, now, like knowledge-wise, indie-wise, Trina puts me to shame. For those that don't know, or maybe you do know, I'm a trained radio host. I am trained to be a show host, a broadcast host. It doesn't matter if it's wrestling, doesn't matter if it's sports, doesn't matter if it's news. That was my training. That's what I'm made to do. But because I've been working with Trina, she's shown me that wrestling, pro wrestling, is an art. And it goes with our tagline, wrestling is an art. Life is a work. So I can watch a show and be so appreciative of the action I'm watching. And I'm sure a lot of you out there think the same thing, where you can feel an energy and an electric, and I'm not going to say the most electrifying man of sports entertainment, but just a connection to what you're watching when you have two high caliber athletes in the ring, rather than two plodding 1980s. I'm going to give you an example. Dino Bravo versus Del Morocco. I talk about this all the time. SummerSlam 88. My favorite pay-per-view, the first pay-per-view I ever watched. You got two big brawling dudes. The match goes, 6 minutes? And that's what I'm made to learn about pro wrestling. It wasn't until I got older and appreciated the cruiserweights and the catch-can style with the Dean Malenkos, the Chris Jerichos, the Eddie Guerreros, those type of wrestlers, the shooters. Well, I started to get a appreciation for pro wrestling. And I missed that. That's why I have a soft spot for the Cesaros. That's why I have a soft spot for those technical savvy. I wish Natalya had a better personality, because then I'd be a lot more happier of her getting pushed. But she's so plain. She's so cardboard. Like, now her gimmick is her cat. Again, tweet me. Let me know at Damian. LastMarkStanding.com, on SoundCloud and iTunes. Let me go back and check on the Twitter feed and on the YouTube feed real quick. First season of Lucha Underground, I believe, is on Netflix. All right, well, I may have to check that out. So it's going to be on my Netflix. I will not chill while watching it, just so y'all know. I will pay attention to it. What do we got? Yes, only 3. I just want 3 favorite matches of Lucha Underground. All of you, give me your top 3 from all the seasons. And I will go back and I will watch them, or I'll watch the highlights, and I will give my rating scale. You guys know me by now. You know what kind of action I like. I like in-ring action. So keep that in mind when recommending stuff to me. Let's see what else. All right, Aztec Warfare. Okay, I've heard a lot about that. Trina's been trying to get me to watch Aztec Warfare. Okay. All right. So hit me up with some questions, guys, while I'm going on here. I mean, it's 12:30 on the East Coast. I don't got to be at work until later tomorrow, so I'm going to be here for a while, streaming, and pretty much I'm at your disposal at this point, folks. Feel free, because we don't really do Q&A a lot on here on Last Mark Standing. So just let me know what questions you got. I'll answer them as best I can. Remember, these are my opinions only. They don't reflect Trina's or even the Last Mark Standing as a whole, but they're only mine. Grave Consequences, Sexy Star versus Mariposa, no mas match. Marty the Moth Martinez versus Killshot, Weapons of Mass Destruction match. Somebody want to let me know what that is really quick before I go looking for that, because I feel like that's like a hardcore match gone wrong. So, all right. Another thing I'm a little pissed off about. I'm tired of all the Paige and Del Rio talk. Why do you care? Why do you care what this adult man and adult women are doing in their personal life? Why is everybody painting Del Rio as the bad guy? Why is everybody painting Paige as something other than a problem child? Are you in their lives? We don't live with them. We don't know what they're doing. Yes, I worry about Paige getting cut, but let's be honest here. She's going to get work. She's just got to show up at an event. Like I said, autograph signing, indie show. She's just got to show. Look at Del Rio. He was at WCPW. What Culture Pro Wrestling? And the pop Del Rio got was amazing. He can go back. He can go to Ring of Honor. He can go back to Lucha. He can go anywhere. Paige can go anywhere and make money because they are a name. And it helps that they can go in the ring. It's a lot different than Ryback, who can't really go in the ring. But those two can go in the ring. But you guys, why do people care so much? Is it the soap opera effect? Is it the TMZ of pro wrestling? Because is that where we're going right now? Are we going to TMZ of pro wrestling now, where I have to watch the dirt sheets and go into these rumors that I don't give two shits about. Will that make a better show for you guys if we start doing rumors? Because I don't think that would help the show. I know you guys know how this show is by now. We care about the big picture. So do you want to start talking about TMZ type stuff? Because if you are, let me know. Maybe I'll do a little segment about some TMZ wrestling stuff, like wrestling gossip. But I don't care for the Paige thing. She got surgery. It was successful. Her and Del Rio, man, if they're happy, let them be. If they're in a toxic relationship, it'll work itself out one way or another. Why do you care? Why do we care about their personal lives? Honestly, I want you guys to answer me. Why do we care? Yeah, exactly. She can go to PWG. You don't think she's going to fit on Pro Wrestling Guerrilla? Please. I feel like PWG was made for somebody like Paige. She'll be fine. Don't worry about her getting cut from the E. See, this is the difference between now versus 20 years ago, 30 years ago. Once you got cut from WWE, if you were a scrub, you had nowhere to go. But look at Adam Rose. He's getting work in the indies. There's a reason why people work indies and don't go to WWE. There's a reason why the Young Bucks prefer to stay in the indies, because you can make a good life for yourself. Wrestling multiple indie dates, your own schedule, the way you want to. You don't really care about pushes. You just want to go out and wrestle. I have nothing but respect for those kinds of people. But if you're worried about your spot, and you're not willing to take a chance on your own career, I ain't got respect for that. It's called stagnation. If you're stagnant, I got no respect for stagnation. I hate it personally. I don't stay at jobs more than a year and a half. Why? Not because I'm not good at what I do. I've been doing it for 13, 14 years. But it's because I can't stay in one place. I'm a nomad. I am an emotional nomad that needs to move around. So if someone, full disclosure, I had a radio station a few months ago offer me a 2-year contract. The pay was shit. It was about $28,000 a year in the Midwest. I'm not going to say where. I'm not going to say the station. But for 1 year, I would have took it, because in the part of the Midwest that they were going to pay me $28,000, I can make money doing other things with my side clients and being a therapist elsewhere. So I could have made my hay. But it was the fact that it was a 2-year contract. They really expected me to lock in for 2 years and $28,000 per year. I'm good. So that's part of why the people like the Bucks don't do it. You don't lowball someone and then say like, oh, you should be grateful that we're throwing you a bone. You should know your self-worth. Your self-worth. And I'm glad people like the Young Bucks can make a living. Tony Nese, people like that, these guys that came to prominence during the Cruiserweight Classic. Damn, man, if it wasn't for the CWC, I would not know about half these people. But you know what? Their dreams to get to WWE, I don't fault that. But I guarantee you, if they all got cut, they'll make money. They'll be fine. Have I checked out the villain Marty Scurll? Yes, I have. He was on WCPW. I saw a pay-per-view event. He was in a Fatal 4-Way. Him, I believe it was Will Ospreay. Was it JT Dunn? It wasn't him. But then it was Martin Kirby, who I have an affinity for Martin Kirby. If you don't know who that is, go to WCPW, look up Martin Kirby. He's essentially a living, breathing Nintendo character come to life for What Culture Pro Wrestling. So check that out. Yes, Nese is a killer. Damn, what a wrestler. I've seen him live for House of Glory. He's a lot bigger in person. Surprisingly, a lot bigger in person. And the best part was he put over the talent he went up against at House of Glory, Ken Broadway. He put him over. So you would have thought, here's this big name, Tony Nese, the premier athlete. You thought he would have went over. No, he put the talent over. Why? Because he's not part of that. He's not part of the organization, but he had no problem doing business. There's no ego. When people don't have egos and they do it for the love, how can you not like a guy like that? Let's see what else we got here. Yes. Should there be a women's classic? Trina and I disagree on this a few times. I think in order to bring women's wrestling to the general masses, there needs to be a women's championship classic. I don't like the fact that women have to be put on a pedestal in order for them to get noticed. But at the current rate, look at Raw. You're only pushing what? 3.5 women on Raw? Because, half of Dana Brooke, her personality, now her in-ring work is getting pushed. So you got 3.5 on Raw. You got the 6 women on SmackDown. What else you got? So if you don't follow NXT, you got the Asukas, the Ember Moons, the Billie Kays. I'm not a big fan of Billie Kay, by the way. I don't know. There's just something stiff about her in the ring. I don't like Eva Marie. We've talked about this ad nauseum. I'm not a big fan of Eva Marie. But you need to be able to have someplace to showcase women's wrestling. And I honestly believe a women's classic would be a great way to actually get more people out there. Like I said, the Mandy Leones, Deonna Purrazzo's, Taylor Hendricks, Crazy Mary Dobson just got signed by NXT. Jessica Havoc, women like that. Sonya Strong. Women like that need to be put guy. And I hate to say it, the only way the public's going to know is if someone like WWE puts them on the pedestal to get them their own showcase. Am I a fan of that? No. But you take what you can get. That's my own point. Nikki Cross, yes. I love her insanity. I think her, Eric Young are the two standouts. I think Alexander Wolf is a sleeper in that group because he has really strong strikes. He looks as if he's really engrossing himself in the gimmick with Sanity. Sawyer Fulton, not a big fan of. He just looks like a big derp, and I'm sorry to say it like that, but he just looks like he's there. How can you be that big and not stand out when your other 3 compatriots stand out more than you? But Mask Fan, thank you again for putting me on to Nikki. I've seen stuff about her. Oh my God, that girl can punch. She can strike, and we all know I got an affinity for strong style. Would a women's IC title be good? I don't think I'd call it the IC title. I wouldn't even call it the women's. You know what? If they're not going to bring back the television championship, I honestly think giving a women's television championship where you defend it on all WWE programming, NXT, main event, superstars, SmackDown, Raw, the workhorse title, give that to Natalya. Let Natalya use that because that's the workhorse title. If you remember back in WCW, Arn Anderson is the perennial television champion. Stone Cold Steve Austin, when he was Stunning Steve, television champion. Those are the kind of guys I associate with the TV title. People who can go, who are Matt Wizards. So if you want to make a women's TV title and have somebody like Natalya be the standard bearer for that, where she can be the gatekeeper for people who come up from NXT, because I don't want Asuka to have that. I don't want Bayley to have that. Give it to someone who's stable, who isn't going to really go up or down the card. Who are you going to give it to? Summer Rae? Alicia Fox? Nia Jax? No, you're not. I think Natalya's the best bet for a women's IC title if that ever comes to fruition. Ring technicians, yes. A women's IC title and a women's US title. I think that's title overkill. I honestly believe if you have those many titles, I think it dilutes the product. I like the fact that you have a mid-card title on each brand. I think NXT needs a mid-card title, but I honestly also feel that the women deserve a mid-card title if they spruce up the women's division. Maybe a bridge title between NXT and WWE in the main roster. I think maybe that could help. Who would you want to see in the WWE women's wrestling wise? I know a lot of people have told me Mandy Leon on looks alone could have gotten into WWE, and people don't understand how she hasn't been signed yet. But I honestly believe Blue Pants, Leva Bates, I believe Jade could have gone to WWE. Deonna Purrazzo could go to WWE. There's a lot of great women's wrestlers out there, especially the women of Honor. I think they can make their hay in WWE if they so chose. But even if they don't choose that, I think, again, they can make their bones, because look at Tessa Blanchard. She's over in Japan right now, tearing it up. She had a match against her own boyfriend, and apparently it really was a good match. So, I mean, I've seen bits and pieces of the highlights between her and Ricochet, but from all intents and purposes, she's in Japan. She's not resting on her last name. I feel the same thing about Rachel Ellering. I feel like once she gets a little bit more seasoning, and that's what pisses me off now that we're talking about somebody like Eva Marie. You got everything handed to you on a silver mother effing platter, and this is the best you can do? Being clumsy, being a botcher. You even botch kisses? Who botches blowing kisses? I can't. And we all know, those who listen to Last Mark Standing, I'm not a fan of Eva Marie. Yeah, she's okay to look at when she's not caked with 4,000 pounds of makeup. She has qualities that Vince and Kevin Dunn like, and oh yeah, she's got red hair, yeah. So Becky's got orange hair. I thought Jade was in WWE and got released. I could have sworn she was signed to a developmental deal. See, I can speak English, and got cut. I think if they did, they gave up on her too quickly. Someone please confirm that for me if you want, on Twitter or on YouTube. Also, retweet the link for YouTube, because I know there's some people who are wanting to find out where they can tune in. I'm kind of doing 4 things at once at the moment, but just feel free to retweet the link to the YouTube live stream for those who want to get in on this. I'm probably going to be on for like another maybe 10 to 15 minutes. And again, lastmarkstanding.com for all your one-stop Last Mark Standing needs. We have hats. Check them out. Black on black, gold on black with the Last Mark Standing logo. You get personal notes, personal stuff from Trina and myself. I just sent one out to friend of the show, Mimi Shells, with my own personal little note specifically for her. If you want Damian SAWLTY G to send you a note, feel free. If you want Trina to write something to you, feel free as well. Again, lastmarkstand.com. You could check out where we're going to be in the next couple of weeks. I know Trina's going to Japan soon, so I'll be taking over the mantle for Last Mark Standing after this week. So you'll just get me. I may have guests on, I may not. You'll also see me appearing on other podcasts, popping up here and there, while Trina's off gallivanting around Asia, Cambodia, places like that. No, rosters are thin. Yes, the rosters, especially from the women's division, are all thin. That's why I think having a women's classic would be a beneficial thing for the rosters. They need an infusion of something. But who do you bring up from NXT? Nobody's ready. Asuka needs to keep that division until Ember's ready. I don't think Billie Kay is ready. I don't think Mandy Rose is ready. Excuse me, Mandy Rose is ready. Who else? Who's the chick? Sorry for the word chick. The fake Carmella. Yes. Liv Morgan. Oh my. That's another one that bothers me. From what I know, Mia Yim Jade has never had a WWE developmental deal. Thank you very much for that. I appreciate that. So apparently she's never had a WWE deal, but I feel like she's a ring tech. She could do well. Once TNA inevitably goes out of business, maybe she goes to was it Global Force or whatever with Jeff Jarrett, aside from being a Rosebud, having a few matches NXT. Exactly. So she was in WWE as like enhancement talent, but she wasn't actually an official member of the roster. Will Ember be ready? You know what? I saw her admittedly, at bits and pieces at TakeOver because somebody, I'm not going to mention names, Trina, wanted to get snacks from the candy store. So I missed the end of that match and I missed the beginning of Bobby Roode's entrance. But it's okay. I saw it on NXT. I've seen her against Blue Pants, Ember Moon, obviously. I've seen her against a lot of women's wrestlers coming up. I've seen her against Jade. I feel like from what I have witnessed in NXT, it's almost as if they're telling her to tone it down. And I see that a lot with people coming from the indies where they tell them to tone it down. Will she ever be ready for WWE? Eventually, yes. Is that time now? No, because obviously she still has to get a little bit more of her WWE showmanship down before she makes it up to the main roster. I'm going to say something that people may not agree with. I don't know how Asuka's going to do on the main roster. I'm worried. Just like I'm worried about, I don't know how Shinsuke is going to do on the main roster. Vince has never had the best success with marketing Asian superstars. He usually typecast them into some sort of martial artist or some sort of stereotype. So I feel as if Vince has Shinsuke Nakamura and Asuka in his hands, he won't know what to do. You know, it's like, oh, I got these two people from the Rising Sun. Let's put them in a tag team, or let's put them in a stable. Why? They're good enough to stand on their own. They don't need to be united in a stable because they're from Japan. Like, I could see Vince and Kevin Dunn just making them a married couple on air in WWE, you know, when they come up to the main roster, like when they did with Emma and Santino. And don't get me started on Emelina. I liked American Gladiator Emma, Boss Emma, as I like to say, with her kick-ass sunglasses. What this Instagram model Emelina thing is gonna. Please don't. Yes, choppy PP with Kai and Tai. If that was their best representation of an Asian pro wrestler and Jimmy Wang Yang, I worry. And I have every reason to worry given Vince's and Kevin Dunn's history marketing wrestlers from the land of the rising sun. And again, tweet the show at Last Mark Podcast, at Dare to be Damian. Do you honestly think Vince knows what he's doing when it comes to foreign talent? Or is this one of those things where we hope Triple H comes in and kind of says, okay, Vince, nothing to see here. You take your muscle-bound guys, but leave me the actual people who could actually go in the ring. Yes, Eva Marie is an embarrassment. If you listened to the show before, you know how I feel about her. I'm not going to keep going on about the fact that I don't want to see her on my TV screen. I know if we ever get her on the show, Trina will probably do it just to spite me, but I don't want to see her on our show. And please don't tweet her to go on the show just to make me annoyed. That just shows you guys don't care about me. He has killed Cesaro. Yes, Vince has killed Cesaro. But how much of that is Cesaro killing Cesaro, or the writers, or Vince killing Cesaro? Because I feel like the time to strike with Cesaro was when he first came back from injury and he was debuting this whole Jason Statham gimmick, you know, turning into Magic Mike. I think if he would have took the IC title off of Miz, or even the US title off of Rusev, I think that would have been the time to pull the trigger. But I think now that they're just going to waste him with this tag team with Sheamus. You hear the pops. Cesaro's over, but he's exactly the same. Cesaro has not changed who he is since he's been in the WWE. Same for Bray. Same for Luke Harper. I mean, Randy hasn't changed. Orton hasn't changed in what? Like the years he's been there. But because he's a third-generation superstar, he gets management's back. I don't know. We all know I'm one of the best Cesaro fans going today. But I think it's time to give up on Cesaro. He won't get anything past mid-card. I guarantee if he went to another federation, he probably would be their world champion in a month. Look what TNA is doing with Aaron Rex, formerly known as Damian Sandow. What title is this? I like to call this the legitimate pro wrestling title, like the amateur wrestling title, where it's a point system. I think that's really freaking stupid. I think that is an insult to Aaron Rex's talent. But I understand they didn't want to push him right away to the main event scene because they had Galloway, they had Lashley, now they have Moose, and then they had Cody and Mike Bennett. It's exhausting, man, keeping up with TNA. I don't even watch the damn show. Don't get me started on the waste of Bray. Well, Bray's being wasted. Gray on the mic. He's a modern-day Jake the Snake Roberts. He doesn't need a title to get over. I don't think management sees him as a world champion, and if they do, he's nothing but a transitional champion. Give him 1 or 2 months, he'll take it off one face and give it to another face. He's not going to be anything what he is. I'm sorry. Like, he's got to win a feud. It starts off there. He's got to win a feud. He's got to win the Randy feud first, and then we can talk about Bray. But they've killed Bray. What else? A Yakuza faction. I'm assuming you mean in relation to having Asuka and Shinsuke. Don't do that. Don't do that. That is a complete waste of the talent that is Asuka and Shinsuke Nakamura. Putting them in a quote-unquote Yakuza faction. Didn't they try that at one point? I don't know if it was WCW or it was WWE that had this I believe it's WCW that had these Yakuza type gangsters with the former Sonny Ono as their manager. I know was Akio and Jimmy Yang were part of that stable. No more Yakuza gimmicks, no more cultural idiocy gimmicks. Stop with the No Way Jose gimmicks. Stop with the, hey, they're from this country, let's give them this gimmick. Like when they try to make Cesaro a yodeler. People don't remember that. He was a yodeler at some point for a brief time. Yeah. Yodeling is going to get you over. Yodelehi, who? Exactly. What else we got? Bray could go to ROH and be the best heel in the world. Agreed. Bray can go anywhere and be the best heel or face in the world because I feel like he has that supernatural gimmick down. I mean, he's got the pedigree, man. His dad is IRS. You know, he comes from the Rotunda family. He's got something. If he didn't have that, at the very least, he's got the mic skills. But I honestly believe he is a modern day Jake. Yes, the Young Dragons. Thank you. Jamie Noble under a mask, known as Jamie San, who's white, by the way. Yes, I'm well aware. Yes, thank you for that. The Young Dragons. I remember that. That was a very bad Yakuza type gimmick. That didn't last too long. I feel like WCW liked to shoehorn people into gimmicks, thinking about 3 count. 3 count, right, was with Evan Courageous, and they try to get Tank Abbott and all that. And that's how old I am if I'm talking about Tank Abbott. Granddad was black. Yes. His Bray's granddad is Blackjack Mulligan. I remember the new Blackjacks. I remember when Barry Windham and Bradshaw were trying to reinvent the Blackjacks. That didn't work out too well. I feel like a lot of wrestling fans for WWE aren't fans of history. They don't really care for wrestling before they were born. Like, I feel we're going to get to the point where nobody knows Stone Cold Steve Austin. Nobody knows The Rock. Nobody knows Foley unless they keep coming back. Nobody knows Shawn Michaels and the like until they keep coming back to these one-offs. Like, how many people remember the Junkyard Dog? How many people remember Hercules Hernandez? Tito Santana? People like that. I grew up with those. Like, I could tell you, I've never seen Bobo Brazil. I never saw Luthez. But I know my history. And I know, like, the Big Cat Ernie Ladd. Those people I know because I know my wrestling history. I'm not a savant. I am older than Trina by about 4 years. But I go to you guys, the fans of Last Mark Standing, to educate me on things I don't know. People like Mass Fan. People like Mile High Laz. Those guys really like to educate me on things that I may not know or I may have missed out on. So I'm very grateful for things like that. New Day has turned into a minstrel show. Do I even need to talk about that? They jumped the shark a long time ago, and I didn't need Kevin Owens to remind them that they jumped the shark. They jumped the shark a while ago. When they stopped being heels who were trying to be faces, when they started to become merchandise guys, that's when they jumped the shark. Unicorns, bootios, they jumped the shark. Now, if they want to have a little edge with them, like, stretch the PG limitations, I'm okay with that. But when all you're doing is dancing and when Kofi does his twerking, which is very, very weird to watch, and when Biggie does his Ravishing Rick Rude dance, it's a little much. That's just me. Maybe I'm wrong. Let me know. But 80s... Yeah, no. Yes, I'm mentioning all these old farts. Yes, I'm sorry, Mass Fan. Forgive me. I like you, Mass Fan. I am a historian, and I do appreciate all these old farts that not many people would know about. I actually liked Sergeant Slaughter's matches growing up. I've seen Pat Patterson through the network. I like tag team wrestling. I love the Fabulous Rougeau brothers. I just thought they were the perfect douchey tag team in the 80s. Ray and Jacques, they had the foreign heel gimmick, but it was like the douchey Frenchman gimmick without being over the top. I thought that was a really good gimmick. Yes, Ben. Get a night's sleep. Pick this up tomorrow. Watch again. Listen to SoundCloud.com, iTunes, here on YouTube. If anyone's falling asleep, I understand it's almost 1 o'clock and I got to get out of here soon. So get in any last minute questions you want to get into before I go to bed. Let me see what else is going on YouTube. Okay. Mr. Wrestling 1 and 2. That's like saying the Villanos, Tex Slazenger and basically Mark Canterbury and Dennis Knight. Southern Justice, the Godwins. I just love those, the conquistadores. Oh man, I'm really showing my age on today's episode, so sorry guys. So I gotta get out of here soon. I got about 7 minutes till I gotta get out. So again, shout out to everyone who contributes to the show. I'm about to get emotional because today was a really rough day. So I want to thank everybody who supports us, who supports Trina and myself. We have a lot of news to come out in the next couple of weeks. We have some surprises for you. Big things are happening for the team, for us individually and as a team. So look out for that. Last Mark Standing is going to be expanding. We're not going to tell you yet how and why, but we're going to be expanding to other areas and other places. So be on the lookout for that. Again, lastmarkstanding.com for all your one-stop needs for Last Mark Standing. You can purchase our hats. I will have shirts coming out soon for yours truly. It ain't faulty being salty. Shout out to Ben Shaw Designs for designing my soon-to-be published shirt. I appreciate that. Again, you could tweet the show at Last Mark Podcast, at Dare to be Damian, Trina at the Marky Smark. Shout out for the roll call for everyone else that we love and we care for. Mass Fan, Mimi, Smark Infested. I'm trying to, who am I forgetting? And if I forget, I'm sorry. The Sheep Herders, otherwise known as the Bushwhackers, for those that don't know. The Bushwhackers were the Sheep Herders at one point, and they were a very gruesome tag team. So for anyone who was upset that they got inducted to the Hall of Fame before any other tag teams, go back and look at their history. They were hardcore before hardcore was a thing. The Assassins, that's another group. Man, I just feel like I need to go back and watch a whole bunch of old stuff. Like I just need to go back and refresh my memory banks about pro wrestling in general. For those that don't know, I was a Junkyard Dog fan, big time Junkyard Dog fan. I felt as if he got, I hate to say the shaft, but he did get the shaft from WWE. I feel as if they could have used him a lot better than just a mid-card act, because I know in Mid-South he was over like crazy. I know Ted DiBiase, the $1 Million Man, was over in Memphis. Just wasted talents, man. And I feel like that's what's going to happen to people like Cesaro. That's what's going to happen to people like Bray Wyatt. Who else am I thinking of? Not Eric Rowan. Who's the other one? I'm sorry. Luke Harper, otherwise known as Brody Lee. That's why I wouldn't be surprised if people from Ring of Honor, like the Jay Lethals, the Adam Coles, they don't show up in WWE anytime soon. I wouldn't. If it was me, I wouldn't. If you knew you can make a better life for yourself on your own terms on the indie scene, why wouldn't you do it? I think that's one of those like no-brainers for someone like me. If I get signed to a major network in this show, no. You think if Trina gets signed to a major network, she's going to stop doing the show? No, because I feel like this suits us more so than if we have to get signed for a network and do something that's non-wrestling. So I feel as if people like the Young Bucks, Adam Cole, people like Jay Lethal, Cole Cabana, And people can counter and say, well, they wouldn't get a sniff of a cup of coffee in WWE anyway, so it doesn't matter. You can make some money. Personally, if you can go, you can make some money. You may not be a Cena type. You may not be a Roman type. Good living, doing what you need to do for WWE or even in the indies if you're a mid-carder. I mean, I don't think Cesaro is complaining about his paycheck, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think Dolph Ziggler's complaining. I don't think Miz is complaining about their paychecks. And they're not going to get to main event status. All right, I'm going to look at YouTube one more time. All right, Mass Fan, you say about 6 guys from ROH will sign with WWE before January 1st. Who are you thinking? Give me names. I know you told me Lethal you think is signing, and I know you think Adam Cole is signing, but who else do you think is signing? Love me some Dalton Castle. Didn't know he was in TNA. Completely didn't know he was in TNA. I saw him on a TNA Impact episode. He didn't come out with them boys. He came out with the girls. It's kind of anticlimactic for his gimmick. I like Dalton Castle. I know Trina likes Dalton Castle. She put me on to him. So shout out to my partner. She's probably sleeping right now, getting ready for her big day. We're rooting for you. We love you. We support you. And get some sleep. A little bit too hard. You need all the rest you can get. Trust me. Again, who is it? Donovan Dijak. Is that his name? I told you. I've seen him. I've seen him a few times. I just think he's just big. I think Vince is going to like cream on his pants and that's it. But he needs a manager. Like now he has Prince Nana and Ring of Honor. Yeah. So if you think Dijak is going to be any good, again, let me know. What am I missing? I just don't see it. Anyone else you think is a sleeper on WWE's radar? You let me know. Again, on Twitter, lastmarkstanding.com. Tweet the show at lastmarkpodcast. Dalton Castle, again, very much a favorite of mine. I love the Women of Honor. I have now become a women's wrestling diehard fan. For those of you who don't know, I love women's wrestling. I will go to shows to watch a good women's event. Fiesta Pro Wrestling, again, shout out to them for putting the majority of the matches were women's matches. I think it was for like a 10-person card. It was like 4 women's matches, 6 male matches, and there was a mixed intergender match. We want the truth. What's the truth? I'm sorry. Am I missing a joke here? We got truth. It's called our truth. We don't want our truth. Our truth, no. I don't want nothing with our truth. So before I get out of here, again, shout out to Mimi Shells. Shout out to Smart Infested Waters. Shout out to Nick Lush, Max Fan, and Miguel Rodriguez for being our roll call patrons. You guys continue to support the show in more ways than one. I know you probably miss Trina. I miss her too. You're going to get stuck with me for the next few weeks. So it's going to be a lot of this. It's going to be a lot of me answering your calls or answering your tweets and your messages and making it more of a broadcast. So again, tweet the show, lastmarkstanding.com, Last Mark Podcast, Dare to be Damian on Twitter with the Marquee Smark. Thanks guys for tuning in. I'll see you next week.